Wake up to a life-changing journey with Jane Carter, a woman trapped in stress, anxiety, and missed opportunities, who discovers the extraordinary power of gratitude. From chaotic mornings and overwhelming challenges to moments of unexpected kindness and spiritual awakening, Jane learns to see blessings even in life's storms. Through personal trials, family crises, and career obstacles, she discovers that gratitude transforms fear into courage, pain into resilience, and ordinary moments into miracles. Follow her emotional, dramatic path as she counts her blessings, nurtures faith, and inspires those around her, proving that recognizing and sharing life's gifts can turn every day into an extraordinary adventure. The city awoke with its usual chaos, but for one resident, the morning arrived like a storm. Jane Carter's alarm clock blared insistently, dragging her from a restless sleep filled with worries she hadn't slept away. Piles of unopened bills and missed calls lay scattered across her kitchen counter, each one a stark reminder of responsibilities she felt unable to meet. The sunlight that streamed through the window did little to ease the heaviness pressing against her chest. As she rubbed her eyes, Jane's mind raced, cataloging failures and opportunities she had let slip through her fingers. She remembered the meeting she had missed yesterday, the call she forgot to return, and the deadlines creeping closer like shadows she couldn't escape. Her heart thudded in rhythm with the ticking clock, each beat echoing anxiety and self-doubt. It felt as though the day had already defeated her before it even began. The cacophony of life outside her apartment, honking cars, barking dogs, and the distant roar of the city, mirrored the chaos in her mind. Every noise seemed louder, every obligation heavier. Jane wondered how she could face another day without succumbing to the pressure. She paused at the edge of her bed, hands gripping the sheets, searching for a foothold in the storm of her thoughts. Then, almost imperceptibly, a faint memory surfaced. Her grandmother's voice, long gone but never forgotten, whispered softly in her mind. Every morning is a gift, even when it feels heavy. Look for the blessings hidden in the day. Jane felt a subtle spark, a flicker of light in the oppressive darkness of her thoughts. It was barely enough to hold on to, but it was enough to make her hesitate before succumbing to despair. For the first time in weeks, she closed her eyes and whispered a quiet, shaky prayer. Not for solutions, not for miracles, just a simple recognition that today existed and that maybe, just maybe, she could find something to be grateful for. Her chest eased slightly, and the room felt less suffocating. That moment of connection, however fragile, hinted at a journey she hadn't dared imagine. A journey toward self-discovery, reflection, and gratitude. As Jane slowly rose from her bed, there was a tentative hope in her movement. She didn't know what the day would bring, but the thought of searching for hidden blessings lingered like a distant promise. For the first time in a long while, the weight of the morning felt a little lighter. Somewhere deep inside, a story of transformation had quietly begun. The morning sun poured through Jane Carter's window, casting long golden beams across the apartment. Yet, the light did little to erase the shadows of yesterday's failures that still clung to her mind. Coffee in hand, she wandered from room to room, noticing things she usually ignored. The hum of her refrigerator, the soft ticking of the wall clock, the faint scent of flowers from the street vendor below. Something inside her whispered that these small details were not insignificant. They were pieces of life she had overlooked for too long. As she sipped her coffee, Jane's gaze fell on the stack of bills she had avoided all week. Panic rose in her chest, but she paused. Instead of cursing her circumstances, she remembered her grandmother's words from yesterday. Every morning is a gift, even when it feels heavy. For a moment, she simply inhaled and exhaled, counting one blessing at a time. The warmth of her apartment, the aroma of her coffee, the fact that she had a roof over her head. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Missed calls from friends, work emails, and reminders of obligations piled up in a digital avalanche. Jane's first instinct was to panic, but she tried something new. She paused, acknowledged each alert, and silently whispered gratitude for connection, for people who cared enough to call. The tension in her shoulders eased, if only slightly. She realized that gratitude was not about having it all. It was about seeing what already existed. Jane decided to step outside. The city roared around her, but she noticed the rhythm differently now. The chatter of neighbors, the laughter of children chasing each other down the street, the distant hum of traffic, all felt alive, vivid, almost celebratory. In her mind, she began a silent morning prayer, simple yet profound. Thank you for this moment, for life, for the chance to begin again. With every step, the weight of anxiety loosened, replaced by a quiet, steady curiosity. The walk led her to a small park she had passed countless times without noticing. Today, it seemed different. The flowers bloomed with a brilliance she had never seen. The leaves danced in the wind, as if performing a private concert for her alone. A stray dog trotted past, wagging its tail, and a gentle smile crept across Jane's face. She realized that life had been offering her these blessings all along. She had simply been too busy, too stressed, too preoccupied to notice. But gratitude, she quickly learned, was not an instant remedy. A call from work reminded her of an upcoming project she dreaded, one that could determine her financial stability. The familiar surge of panic threatened to overwhelm her newfound calm. Yet, Jane paused again, took a deep breath, and silently prayed. Instead of reacting with fear, she asked for clarity and strength. In that moment, she felt a small but unmistakable shift, a sense of empowerment born from acknowledgement rather than resistance. By midday, Jane returned home and began noticing even the mundane. The way sunlight reflected off her kitchen tiles, the smooth pages of her notebook, the comforting weight of her favorite mug. Gratitude became a practice, a lens through which she viewed everything, even her fears and obligations. Her journal lay open, and she began writing, listing blessings she had overlooked for years: support of friends, a safe home, health, and the ability to take small steps forward. Each word carried weight, grounding her in a reality far richer than her anxieties had suggested. A knock on the door startled her, and she hesitated before opening it. Outside stood a neighbor, offering help with something Jane had struggled with for weeks. At first, pride and doubt whispered that she should refuse, but gratitude pushed through. She thanked the neighbor sincerely, and in that simple interaction, Jane realized how appreciation could transform relationships. It was as if her openness to blessings was now inviting blessings into her life. Evening fell, casting long shadows across her apartment, yet Jane felt lighter than she had in months. She sank into her chair and reflected on the day, how noticing and counting blessings had shifted her perspective in ways she could not have predicted. She realized that life's chaos was not her enemy. Her perception of it was. And the more she practiced gratitude, the more resilient she felt, ready to face the storms that inevitably lay ahead. As Jane prepared for bed, she whispered her nightly prayer with a newfound reverence. Thank you for today, for the unseen blessings, for the chance to start again tomorrow. Her heart, once heavy with anxiety, now carried a quiet hope. She understood that gratitude was not a single act but a journey, one that could illuminate even the darkest mornings. Somewhere deep within, a transformation was quietly unfolding, one day, one prayer, and one blessing at a time. Morning arrived like a gentle whisper, yet Jane Carter awoke with a subtle sense of anticipation. The previous day's practice of gratitude lingered in her mind, like an ember glowing quietly in the dark. She stretched slowly, listening to familiar sounds of her apartment: the humming fridge, the distant city sirens, the gentle ticking of clock, and a small smile tugged at her lips. Even the ordinary was beginning to feel extraordinary. Coffee in hand, Jane opened her journal and began listing the blessings she could see that morning. Each line sparked a memory, a feeling, or a connection she had overlooked before. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear but from the realization that life, with all its chaos and uncertainty, held more gifts than she had ever acknowledged. A single candle flickered on the counter, casting shadows that danced across the walls, a silent reminder of light even in small corners. The phone rang. It was a call from her sister, one she had postponed for weeks. Normally, Jane would have sighed with annoyance, thinking of all she had to do. But today, she answered with warmth, listening intently to her sister's laughter, her stories, her worries. In the act of connection, Jane felt a deep, unexpected joy. The blessing was not just in conversation, but in the willingness to receive it fully. Her morning walk took her past the park again, where the flowers had bloomed brighter, Then she remembered. Children played on the swings, their laughter echoing like music in the crisp air. Jane paused to watch, allowing herself to marvel at the simple beauty of movement and life. She began to see her city differently, not as a place of stress and noise, but as a canvas of small miracles waiting to be noticed. At work, the day's challenges threatened to pull her back into anxiety. A project deadline loomed. Urgent emails piled up, and a difficult colleague sent a terse message that would have once ruined her morning. But today, Jane took a deep breath. She reminded herself to pause, to count blessings even amid pressure. She found gratitude for her skills, for the learning opportunity, and for the fact that she had the chance to contribute meaningfully. A breakthrough arrived unexpectedly. One of her emails, sent in patience and clarity rather than panic, was met with appreciation. A colleague praised her initiative. Jane felt a rush of satisfaction, not prideful, but quiet and affirming. The blessing was doubled. Not only had she performed well, but she also felt her perspective shifting, seeing challenges as opportunities rather than threats. Even small acts around her began to resonate. A stranger held the elevator door, a neighbor returned a lost package, and a street musician played a tune that made her stop and listen. Jane realized that blessings were not always monumental events. They were tiny sparks scattered throughout life, waiting for acknowledgement. Her gratitude became a lens that magnified the ordinary into something meaningful. By late afternoon, Jane noticed something she hadn't before: the energy of her own heart. She felt lighter, more present, more capable of joy even in imperfection. Tasks that once seemed burdensome were now manageable, approached with patience and awareness. She wrote in her journal, "Blessings grow when we notice them. Today, life feels fuller, richer, more alive." Yet, beneath this newfound clarity, tension simmered. Jane knew deep down that life would not always be this gentle. Challenges loomed, unforeseen and inevitable. But today, gratitude had armed her with resilience. Even if darkness came, she realized she could face it with a steady heart and open eyes, ready to see the light that persisted even in shadow. As the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Jane stood by her window, watching the sky blaze with colors of gold and crimson. She whispered prayer of thanks to the day, for the lessons learned, for the small blessings that now felt monumental. A sense of quiet triumph settled over her, a realization that transformation did not require perfection, only presence, awareness, and the courage to acknowledge the beauty hidden in every moment. The morning began quietly, deceptively calm, as Jane Carter sipped her coffee by the window. The city stirred below, indifferent to the storm brewing in her life. A notification blinked on her phone. A call from work she had been dreading. Jane's heart tightened. She hesitated, sensing that today would not be gentle. The weight of expectation pressed against her chest, as if the universe itself were testing her newfound practice of gratitude. The call brought news that shook her. The project she had worked on for months was being reassigned, her contributions overlooked. The familiar surge of panic rushed in, threatening to undo the progress of the last days. Anxiety clawed at her chest. Old habits of self-doubt and despair crept forward. Jane's first instinct was to recoil, to retreat into the comfort of resentment and frustration. But she paused, feeling the small ember of hope from yesterday flicker. She closed her eyes and remembered the quiet lessons of gratitude. Her grandmother's voice echoed, "Even when life rages, blessings remain. Look for them." Jane exhaled slowly, letting the mantra wash over her. She realized that acknowledging blessings didn't erase challenges. It gave her strength to face them. This was the first true test of the journey she had begun. As the day unfolded, another challenge arrived. A personal disagreement with a close friend over a misunderstanding that had festered for weeks. Normally, Jane would have spiraled, feeling anger and resentment. Today, she paused before responding. She counted the blessing of the friendship itself, of the years of shared memories, and of the opportunity to practice patience and understanding. Her reply, measured and compassionate, surprised both herself and her friend. Even her commute turned dramatic. The subway was delayed, forcing Jane to stand in a crowded car filled with impatient commuters. Claustrophobia and irritation threatened to overwhelm her, but she shifted focus, noticing the subtle kindness around her, A stranger giving up a seat, a mother soothing a crying child, a street performer's melody floating through the air. Each moment became a reminder that even chaos carries hidden gifts. By afternoon, the storm intensified at work. A critical report she had prepared was criticized harshly by her manager. The tension in her shoulders threatened to snap. Jane felt the familiar urge to crumble, but she closed her eyes and silently counted her blessings. The skills she had developed, the opportunity to learn, the resilience she had nurtured. Gratitude didn't eliminate the pain, but it gave her the courage to endure. Back at her apartment, Jane faced another blow. A past financial obligation she had overlooked had accrued penalties. Bills stacked once more, threatening to suffocate her. She felt the familiar panic rising, but instead of succumbing, she wrote in her journal. Each blessing she listed, her safe home, her health, the support of loved ones, felt like armor against the storm. The act of acknowledgement transformed fear into resolve. That evening, she took a long walk, rain beginning to fall in heavy sheets. The city glistened under wet streets, reflections turning ordinary scenes into shimmering mosaics. Jane welcomed the storm, feeling a strange kinship with it. Life, she realized, was unpredictable, uncontrollable, yet within it existed countless moments to be grateful for, even amid hardship. By nightfall, Jane sat by her window, watching the rain blur the city lights. She whispered a prayer, not for the storm to pass, but for strength to navigate it. Thank you for this challenge, for the chance to grow, for the blessings hidden even in struggle. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within her life. Yet she felt an unexpected calm settle over her, a quiet triumph of perspective over circumstance. As she drifted to sleep, Jane understood the lesson. Gratitude was not a shield from life's storms, but a compass through them. Today, the storm had raged, but she had faced it without surrendering to fear. She realized that her journey of counting blessings had reached a new depth, one that would carry her through even darker days ahead. Somewhere deep inside, a stronger, wiser version of herself was quietly emerging. Morning arrived after the storm, and Jane Carter opened her window to find the city washed clean, glistening under the pale golden light. The chaos of yesterday felt distant, yet the weight of challenges remained in her chest. But for the first time, she noticed something new, a glimmer of possibility threading through shadows. Life, she realized, could be harsh and beautiful all at once. As she walked to a nearby cafe, Jane's eyes caught the smallest of details. A child offering flowers to an elderly man, a street vendor smiling genuinely at a customer, raindrops catching sunlight like tiny prisms on the pavement. Each observation struck her as a quiet miracle. Her heart, still tender from yesterday's trials, swelled with gratitude for the little kindnesses that had gone unnoticed in her former rush through life. At work, tension lingered. The project she had lost still weighed heavily, but today she approached her tasks differently. A colleague offered help, suggesting a new approach to an assignment she had struggled with. Instead of resisting, Jane accepted. The collaboration led to unexpected progress, and she felt a surge of hope. Even in adversity, blessings appeared when she opened her eyes to see them. Her phone buzzed again. Another challenge, this time personal. A message from a friend revealed an urgent problem requiring her attention. Jane's first instinct was panic, but she paused, recalling the lessons of the storm. Counting her blessings, she recognized her capacity to help her experience and her network of support. Gratitude transformed pressure into purpose, and she responded calmly, with clarity and compassion. The afternoon brought a small but meaningful surprise. A stranger returned a lost wallet Jane hadn't even noticed missing. The encounter left her shaken with relief and wonder. How often had she overlooked such gifts? She wondered, focused only on what went wrong. Today, the universe seemed to whisper, blessings are always present, waiting for eyes willing to see them. On her walk home, Jane noticed the colors of the city in a way she never had before. Streetlights reflected on wet pavement. Shop windows glowed warmly, and conversations carried laughter across the streets. Each moment became a testament to life's resilience and beauty. The city itself felt alive, as if joining her in celebration of survival and small triumphs. That evening, she visited a friend who had been ill, bringing soup and company. The gratitude in the friend's eyes mirrored Jane's own growing appreciation for the connections that define life. The simple act of caring illuminated how blessings were not just found in things, but in shared moments, in giving and receiving, in recognizing each other's presence as sacred. Back in her apartment, Jane sat by her window, reflecting on the day. Challenges remained. Storms would come again, yet the world felt expansive and forgiving. Gratitude, she realized, was not a fleeting feeling but a lens, a perspective that revealed abundance in every corner, even in moments of struggle. Each blessing, she noticed, became a spark, lighting her path forward. Her evening prayer was longer than usual, flowing naturally from heart to lips. Thank you for these unexpected blessings, for the people who remind me of joy, for the moments that show me life is alive and waiting. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of recognition. Life was giving her more than she had dared to hope for, and she was finally ready to receive it. As night settled over the city, Jane felt a serene energy unlike anything she had known before. The storm of yesterday had revealed hidden strength, and the light of today illuminated possibilities she had overlooked. Somewhere within, she sensed that a profound transformation had begun, a quiet yet unstoppable force shaping her into someone who could face life's turbulence with hope, awareness, and gratitude. Morning broke with a quiet optimism that Jane Carter had never experienced before. The sunlight streamed into her apartment, but it wasn't just light. It felt like an invitation. She took a deep breath, feeling the calm strength she had been cultivating over the past days. Gratitude had become more than a practice. It was beginning to shape the rhythm of her life, subtly influencing her choices, her reactions, and even her relationships. At the office, Jane noticed a shift in her interactions. Colleagues who had once seemed distant now responded with warmth and openness. A simple thank you or a smile sparked deeper conversations. She realized that gratitude was contagious. The more she acknowledged blessings, the more others seemed to reflect positivity back at her. Even small gestures, holding a door, complimenting a coworker, or offering help, resonated far beyond the immediate moment. A client she had feared confronting for weeks now approached her with genuine appreciation. Their acknowledgement of her efforts sent a ripple of relief and satisfaction through Jane. She felt gratitude not just for the recognition, but for her ability to remain composed, resilient, and generous despite the challenges she had faced. The power of noticing blessings, she realized, could transform not only her life, but the lives of those around her. Walking home during her lunch break, Jane encountered a homeless man asking for spare change. In the past, she might have ignored him, caught in her own preoccupations. Today, she stopped, shared a kind word, and offered a sandwich. The man's smile lit something in her, a profound recognition that blessings multiply when shared. In that small act, she understood the invisible web connecting all of life's kindnesses. By mid-afternoon, Jane received a text from her sister. Inspired by Jane's newfound outlook, her sister had begun counting her own blessings and had even started a small gratitude journal. Jane smiled, amazed at how her journey was inspiring those she loved. Gratitude, she realized, was not confined to her personal experience. It could ripple outward, touching lives in ways she had never anticipated. An unexpected meeting with a longtime friend brought tears to Jane's eyes. Her friend had been struggling quietly, but Jane's encouragement and presence seemed to bring comfort. The exchange reaffirmed the lesson she had been learning. Noticing blessings allowed her to act with compassion, connecting her more deeply with others. Life's value was not in what she accumulated, but in what she shared. Even at home, the transformation was evident. Jane prepared a simple meal with care, appreciating the colors, textures, and aromas she had once taken for granted. She called a neighbor to check on them, sharing a laugh over trivial matters that previously would have gone unnoticed. Every action became an expression of gratitude, a way of honoring the gifts she had once ignored. The evening brought a small miracle. A letter arrived from a distant relative expressing gratitude for a past kindness Jane had almost forgotten. The acknowledgement warmed her heart, a reminder that blessings can circle back in unexpected ways. She realized that life was a constant exchange of giving and receiving, each moment an opportunity to notice, reflect, and respond. As night fell, Jane sat by her window, looking out at the city alive with lights and movement. Her journal lay open, filled with reflections of the day, acts of kindness, small victories, and moments of beauty. She whispered a prayer of thanks. Thank you for the blessings that multiply, for the ways my gratitude touches others, for the hidden miracles that appear when eyes are open to see them. By the time she drifted to sleep, Jane felt an energy pulsing within her, quiet yet unstoppable. Gratitude had transformed from a fragile spark into a steady flame, warming her heart and illuminating the lives around her. She understood now that true wealth was measured not by possessions or accolades, but by awareness, love, and the courage to recognize and share life's blessings. Somewhere deep inside, Jane knew she had entered a new chapter of her life, one defined by connection, awareness, and the unstoppable force of gratitude multiplied. Morning arrived with an eerie stillness, almost as if the city itself was holding its breath. Jane Carter awoke to a day that promised no ordinary challenges. Her heart, fortified by days of gratitude, sensed that today would demand everything she had learned. The peaceful rhythm of her morning coffee and journaling felt like preparation for the storm she now faced. At work, a sudden crisis erupted. A major client threatened to cancel a project vital to her department. Panic rippled through the office, but Jane felt a strange calm settle over her. She had faced setbacks before, yet today she approached the chaos differently. She took a deep breath, silently counting her blessings, her knowledge, her team, and the ability to navigate uncertainty with clarity. The team turned to her for guidance, their anxiety palpable. Jane felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders, but she remembered the lessons of the past weeks. Gratitude had taught her focus on what she could control, to act with patience and wisdom rather than fear. She listened carefully, acknowledged each concern, and proposed a solution that drew on everyone's strengths. Outside the office, life mirrored the internal turbulence. A neighbor's sudden health scare demanded immediate attention. Jane's instincts urged panic, but she paused, silently acknowledging blessings. Her ability to help, the knowledge she possessed, and the support network she could rely on. Acting calmly, she coordinated aid, comforted the neighbor, and witnessed the first signs of relief breaking through the chaos. Meanwhile, personal doubts crept in. Was she truly capable of handling the storm of the day? Could gratitude alone sustain her when pressures mounted? Yet each reminder of life's small gifts, the chirping of birds outside, the warmth of her coat, a reassuring message from a friend, anchored her. Gratitude had become her compass, pointing her steadily forward even in uncertainty. The crisis at work escalated as a technical error threatened the project's viability. Jane felt the familiar adrenaline spike, but instead of panic, she approached the situation strategically. She coordinated with her team, breaking down the problem into manageable pieces. Each successful step reinforced her belief. Gratitude did not make the storm vanish, but it illuminated the path through it. By late afternoon, the project stabilized. Clients expressed relief and appreciation. Colleagues breathed easier, and Jane felt a quiet triumph coursing through her veins. The day had tested her resilience in ways she had never imagined, yet she had emerged not only unbroken but stronger, more grounded, and more confident in the power of gratitude to transform perspective into action. Evening brought another test, a personal confrontation with a friend who had long held a grudge. Past misunderstandings threatened to unravel their relationship. Jane felt a familiar rush of emotion, but gratitude and prayer guided her. She listened with empathy, acknowledged her own mistakes, and extended forgiveness. The friend's response, warm and relieved, confirmed the transformative power of patience and grace. As night fell, Jane reflected on the day's triumphs and trials. Each challenge had been met not with fear or complaint, but with awareness, presence, and gratitude. She realized that life's true tests were not about avoiding difficulty, but about choosing how to respond in the face of it. Gratitude had become the lens through which she could navigate any storm, turning potential despair into resilience, connection, and growth. Before sleep claimed her, Jane whispered her nightly prayer. Thank you for the trials that reveal strength, for the people who guide and challenge me, for the blessings that persist even when storms rage. May I continue to see and share these gifts every day. A profound sense of peace settled over her, a quiet affirmation that she was ready for whatever the future held. She understood that her journey had led her to an unshakable truth. Gratitude, paired with faith, could illuminate even the darkest paths. The sun rose like a triumphant herald, casting golden light across the city as Jane Carter opened her eyes. For the first time in months, she felt fully present, fully awake, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. The trials, setbacks, and storms of the past weeks had forged her into someone stronger, more aware, and profoundly grateful. Today felt different. Today felt like a beginning. Coffee in hand, Jane gazed out her window at the world below. The streets teemed with life, yet nothing seemed ordinary anymore. Each movement, each smile, each flood of the wind carried weight, significance, and beauty. She whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, feeling a deep resonance in her chest. Gratitude had transformed from a practice into a lens, coloring every experience, every interaction with awareness and joy. Her morning walk revealed miracles she had long ignored. Children laughed in harmony with the songs of birds. Strangers greeted one another with warmth. Even the simplest moments, a breeze brushing her face, sunlight glinting off a puddle, felt sacred. Jane recognized that life was overflowing with blessings, waiting only for eyes willing to see them. Gratitude had sharpened her perception, revealing abundance in the most ordinary places. At work, Jane found herself moving with effortless purpose. Colleagues sought her advice, inspired by her calm demeanor and clear thinking. Opportunities she had feared or overlooked in the past now presented themselves naturally. She approached each task not with fear or expectation, but with appreciation, a willingness to contribute, and the knowledge that even small efforts had profound impact. Midday brought an unexpected reunion with an old friend she had lost touch with years ago. They embraced, laughed, and shared stories that sparked warmth and nostalgia. Jane felt her heart swell with gratitude for relationships that endure, for the ways life reconnects those meant to cross paths again. The blessing was not just in the reunion, but in the awareness that she had cultivated the ability to cherish it fully. Even small interactions radiated meaning. A colleague's simple "thank you," a neighbor's smile, a passerby holding a door, each became a vivid reminder that life itself is generous. Jane understood now that blessings were everywhere, in acts of kindness, in opportunities for connection, and in the quiet moments that often went unnoticed. Life had shifted. She had shifted. That evening, Jane prepared a simple dinner, noticing the colors, textures, and aromas with deep appreciation. She called her sister, sharing reflections on the journey and the ways gratitude had transformed her days. Her sister, inspired, began her own practice of counting blessings. Jane realized the most profound gifts were not material. They were shared experiences, awareness, and love multiplied through connection. As night settled, Jane sat by her window, looking at the glittering city lights. She reflected on the storm she had faced, the setbacks she had endured, and the moments of illumination that had guided her through. She whispered her nightly prayer with clarity and reverence. Thank you for every blessing, for every challenge that strengthened me, for every moment that revealed life's miracles. May I continue to live with open eyes, open heart, and gratitude always. In the stillness of the night, a sense of completeness washed over her. She understood that life's beauty was inseparable from its challenges, that blessings often revealed themselves in the spaces between trials. Gratitude had not removed difficulty. It had transformed it into a path of growth, understanding, and joy. The journey had shaped her into a person capable of seeing and sharing the extraordinary in the ordinary. As Jane drifted into a peaceful sleep, the city whispered around her, alive with untold stories and hidden blessings. She had awakened not just to a new day, but to a new life, a life in which gratitude, awareness, and faith were her companions, guiding her through each sunrise and sunset. Today, she counted her blessings, and in doing so, discovered that life itself was the greatest miracle of all. The dawn light spilled into Jane Carter's apartment once more, but today carried a weight she hadn't anticipated. A letter arrived on her doorstep, bearing news that would test the serenity she had cultivated. A distant relative had fallen ill, a crisis she had no control over. For a moment, panic threatened to return, but she caught herself grounding her thoughts in the lessons of the past weeks. Jane paused, sipping her morning coffee, letting the silence settle. She reflected on how far she had come, from waking to dread and anxiety to facing challenges with awareness and faith. Gratitude, she realized, was no longer a daily exercise but a foundation strong enough to endure life's unpredictable trials. Even news that would have once crushed her now felt like a call to act with purpose and compassion. The day's errands became a canvas for awareness. Every interaction, cashier's smile, stranger holding the door, the neighbor walking their dog, felt magnified. Jane began journaling, noting not only the blessings she had long known, but also the subtle gifts she discovered in human resilience. Shared glances, words of encouragement, the beauty of unspoken kindness. Each entry reinforced her sense of interconnectedness. News from work compounded the tension. A sudden system outage threatened multiple projects simultaneously. Normally, this would have sent Jane into chaos, but today she approached the situation with a calm she hadn't known she possessed. She coordinated solutions, delegated thoughtfully, and acknowledged the skills of her colleagues. Her gratitude for their presence and effort transformed stress into teamwork and focus. At midday, a phone call came from her ailing relative. Fear surged, but Jane held steady, listening with care, sharing reassurance. She realized that gratitude allowed her to engage with life fully, even in moments of uncertainty. Every word exchange became an anchor for hope, a reminder that blessings could coexist with struggle. On her walk home, Jane noticed a street performer playing a familiar tune, one that had soothed her in previous storms. Children danced, strangers paused, and for a moment, the world felt suspended in harmony. Jane felt an overwhelming sense of wonder, recognizing that beauty persists even in chaos. Life's grace, she understood, is persistent. It arrives when least expected but most needed. Evening brought unexpected generosity. A friend delivered groceries to Jane, knowing she had been stretched thin. Gratitude surged through her in waves. She realized that blessings are not only to be noticed but shared. In giving thanks, she also learned to receive, allowing life's abundance to flow through her, reinforcing connections she had almost taken for granted. That night, Jane sat by her window, looking over the city alive with stories and struggles she could not know. Yet for the first time, she felt an unshakable peace. Life's unpredictability no longer frightened her. Each challenge was a mirror reflecting strength, patience, and resilience cultivated through gratitude. Her perspective had transformed completely. She whispered a long, deliberate prayer, weaving together thanks for victories, patience for trials, and faith for the unknown. Thank you for teaching me that life's beauty is always present, even in struggle. May I continue to see, share, and nurture blessings wherever I go. A single tear slid down her cheek, not sorrowful, but filled with recognition of life's intricate, miraculous weave. As she closed her journal and turned off the light, Jane understood that the journey of counting blessings was never truly complete. Every day offered new opportunities, new challenges, and new gifts. She had awakened not just a single morning, but to a life full of potential, courage, and gratitude, a life that could shine brightly even through storms. The city awoke under a crisp, gray morning, the kind that hinted at change. Jane Carter felt a strange mix of calm and anticipation, as if the universe had one final test in store. Her heart, fortified by weeks of counting blessings, prepared for a day that promised both challenge and revelation. The coffee she held felt warmer, the sunlight sharper, as though signaling that today's moments mattered more than any before. The first call came unexpectedly. A major financial setback threatened to derail her careful planning. Normally, this would have triggered panic and sleepless nights, but Jane paused. She focused on the skills, connections, and opportunities she still possessed. Gratitude had transformed her perspective. She no longer measured life by obstacles, but by the strength to navigate them. At work, chaos erupted as an urgent project demanded immediate attention. Colleagues grew frantic, deadlines loomed, and frustration threatened to spread like wildfire. Jane's response was deliberate and calm. She acknowledged the stress, expressed gratitude for her team's talents, and guided them with clarity. In the eye of the storm, her composed gratitude became a stabilizing force. A personal crisis arrived in the form of a friend in deep emotional distress. The news struck like lightning, but Jane breathed, counting the blessing of empathy and presence. She listened, supported, and reminded herself that life's challenges were not burdens to bear alone. Gratitude allowed her to be both present and strong, providing comfort without losing her own center. During lunch, Jane stepped outside into the brisk air. She noticed a homeless man offering a small act of kindness to another passerby, a mother teaching her child patience, a musician playing notes that vibrated with hope. Each moment reinforced a realization that life's blessings were always present, even in hardship, even in fleeting interactions. Back at her apartment, she received news that compounded her stress. A delayed package held critical documents. The familiar panic arose, but she recognized it immediately and paused. Gratitude allowed her to focus on what was still within her control, to act with patience, and to accept what could not yet be changed. Each challenge became a lesson, a mirror reflecting resilience and strength cultivated through awareness. By evening, Jane encountered a final test. An old acquaintance confronted her with accusations rooted in misunderstanding. Her instinct was to react defensively, yet gratitude tempered her response. She listened, acknowledged truth where